Joining me now is one of the claimants in that case, Keira Bell, who won the case today. Keira, for those who don't know you, just outline your own story for us briefly.
So I was referred to the clinic at age 15 and I was seen from age 16 and I was put on puberty blockers that same year and onto testosterone the next year and then I went on to surgery through the adult clinic.
Just explain to us, you suffered gender dysphoria as a girl.
Yes.
And you felt that you wanted to transition to become a man.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
So yeah, when I first arrived at the clinic, you know, my belief, you know, that I was a boy or, you know, that I should become a boy was affirmed. You know, there was no investigation into why I had those feelings. You know, it was pretty much accepted from the get-go, and you know, yeah, medical interventions were spoken of quite quickly.
So you went ahead. You had the blockers. You had surgery, and then you decided that that wasn't the right course for you.
Yeah. Just realizing, I think that a lot of it isn't based in, you know, it doesn't have scientific evidence behind it. You know, and just realizing that, you know, it's not a healthy route to go if, you know, I can, you know, if I don't need to continue on with it.
So, I mean, it's incredibly personal. It's very sort of you specific. But in your case, you felt that what they had let you have access to the drugs too quickly.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
And that you should have been denied that because you weren't making a sound judgment.
Yeah, that's right. I was dealing with a lot of other mental health issues also, and you know, a lot of past issues that hadn't been brought up, or again, it wasn't investigated. So yeah, there's always a lot of issues going on behind the scenes, you know, definitely in my experience, and I think, you know, with the current kind of, you know, trend that we're seeing of young girls being referred to the clinic.
I guess this judgment would stop them handing out the treatment straight away or after a short amount of counselling. But if you know, as an articulate young woman went to the court and said, I really mean this and I'm serious about it, there's every chance that the court would still have allowed you to do something which you would later regret, isn't there?
I wouldn't say so, because, you know, they would have actually looked into the reasons, you know, why I wanted to proceed with the treatment. And, you know, I'm sure that the mental health issues and everything that should have been discovered at the Tavistock would have been brought out in the courts.
There will be thousands of young people tonight who will be terrified by this judgment, as you know, terrified that this will stop them living the life that they need to, be incredibly distressed because something that didn't work for you may still work and be very important to them.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we're dealing with the topic of mental health, you know, obviously emotions will be running high, and I understand that, you know, I would have been in the same position perhaps as, you know, someone, you know, age 16, for example, you know, listening to, you know, what happened today. But, you know, again, the High Court, you know, they came to their decision, you know, they're high-tier judges, and, you know, they looked at the...
So you don't worry about the kids now who, I mean, some of them might even have their current drug treatment stopped. Do you worry about them?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm definitely concerned about them, and I completely empathise with them. You know, I think that, better mental health services need to be put in place to help that person through, the period that they're going through. I think that's the vital, that's what needs to happen.
Because for every Keira Bell, there could be somebody who isn't allowed and wants to be allowed.
Yeah, absolutely. But, again, the High Court, they came to the conclusion that it isn't possible for, particularly under 16s to consent to that treatment, and those protections are put in place for a reason.
Keira Bell, thank you. Thank you very much for coming in.
So, in case it's not clear, good morning. Thought I'd open with that because I think that what gets lost in a lot of this stuff is the reality. I wanted you to see the consequences of this histrionic craziness, that finally we're seeing some sanity, prevail. Thank goodness, right? I've been saying this in previous streams, how some faith in the system is good because, it does... Oh, I've got a hole in my jumper. Oh. Right? Now, so I think when you need to be presented with the face of this discussion. Keira's voice is permanently changed, as far as I know, right? I don't know if it can change back. She's had a full mastectomy. She was fast-tracked onto puberty blockers and then cross-sex hormones without any question, right? That's what we're facing. And honestly, if you're on the side against this, what the fuck is wrong with you? Now, I know you're probably wanting a smart-ass video. We'll get there. I just want to get this out of the way. This is the stuff I want to lead with because I want to get it out of the way because I don't want people to misunderstand that this is not serious, that this issue of transing children is not serious, and that the victory in the UK High Court, right, whether it's a temporary victory remains to be seen, but today it's a victory, right? It's fucking damning. The name of this video is that the UK High Court rules that water is wet. And that's a lot of how I feel about this, which is that children can't consent. That is a fundamental principle of law. Okay? And because a bunch of fucking bullies decided that they could scream at people so that until they forgot what was true and real, this is now in the court with a fucking brave as fuck, amazing young woman, permanently fucking damaged. And a BBC presenter, who I'm sure means well. There is a nuance to this. But this idea that somehow not putting a kid on puberty blockers is causing them harm, or that it's Keira's fault, to address Erica's comment, which I did see, okay? Why is the interviewer trying so hard to push that Keira has blood on her hands? The gaslight. It's like, no, children cannot consent. If they're on puberty blockers, they should be off them. This is harmful, okay? Water is wet. Children cannot consent. Okay? This is an experimental treatment. The court has ruled that way. Now, I'll get funny in a minute, but I needed to put some gravity up front to show that as funny and ridiculous and insane this is, okay? How insane the debate is. You've got some fuckwit claiming that people with XXY chromosomes are fucking another sex. And you've got people arguing that karyotypes is a fucking clownfish and fucking, it's a fucking shit show. But how can anybody watch this and still think that this is okay and think that it's somehow acceptable? It's messy, yes, but fuck me. They don't take drugs away from children for no fucking reason. The kids are they're fucked. I'm sorry, but like, no. And I'm so glad. So anyway, so for those who don't know, the UK High Court, right, so Keira Bell, this is Keira. This is the case I was talking about, I've been referring to like the last few weeks. Was fast-tracked. And this is an NHS gender clinic. This is not a private quack clinic. This is a state authorised and funded clinic that had a 15-year-old girl walk through their doors with a bunch of mental health issues, thinking it was gender dysphoria, right? Because a fucking internet cult that is going unaccounted for, that somehow kids can self-diagnose now. That's fine. We're doing that now too. Everyone can just diagnose themselves without a fucking doctor. And when they do show up to a doctor, the doctor just goes, oh yeah, well, you've Googled it. What the fuck is going on? A 15-year-old girl, and she's not alone. Like, you know, they're going to sit there, they're scrambling, they're saying that she's an outlier. She's not alone. This is evidence after evidence after evidence after evidence that are fucking, like, this is crazy what is happening to young girls. I've seen it. Every mother who's got fucking daughters or knows someone with daughters knows somebody who has fucking, who is identifying as a boy. Okay? This is not a deliberate silence or performance. I don't know how to hold this. I'm not deliberately holding silence, but I'm just genuinely fucking amazed. Okay, now we'll get to the funny part, I promise, because there's some funny shit, right? Cults are funny, but the harm that is being done in plain sight and no one gives a fuck, and those that do give a fuck are subjected to death, rape threats, defamation, sackings, mobbings, and they are backed by fucking media. Thank you, BBC, for finally growing a fucking spine. Right? The ABC in Australia backs this. CNN backed this. Fucking Twitter backed this. Facebook backed this. And we're sitting around just fucking ignoring it. Saying that never happens until it fucking happens. Men in female prisons, that doesn't happen. Yes, it fucking happens. So when are you just going to get your fucking head out of your asses and like fucking see the damage that's being done to these young girls? That girl, like, how can you not hear Keira's voice? Right? Something she is now stuck with. Because the adults that should have been in fucking charge, one of whom identifies, what is it? A genderqueer fucking elf. Totally impartial counselling. Right? How can you see that? I don't know what's wrong with people. How they can see. And then they just sit there and again, I've talked about the cognitive biases. I know why. It's rhetorical. I'm trying to be persuasive at this point. But what the fuck, people? Children cannot consent to medical procedures. They can't sign a fucking contract. Children are idiots. Adults are idiots. The vast majority of adults can't consent to shit because they're fucking morons. That's why lawyers exist. It's why you have a lawyer. It's why you should consult one before signing a fucking contract that you don't understand. But Dr. Google said, I'm fucking fine, so I can just... What the fuck, people? So this one is for the fucking handful of dickheads that are still like behind this and not fucking completely outraged. Okay. What the fuck is wrong with you? How can you see that poor girl with eyes and ears and see this? How do you see the violent threats against women? How do you see Yaniv, Karen White, all of this stuff? How can you see these things with your eyes? I have eyes. I've had 20/20 vision, okay? I have good vision. Both have eyes. How can you see what I see? How can you look at this video, hear the same words with a fucking man's voice that has been ruined by fucking testosterone at the age of 16? How can you see the same thing that I see and not fucking be so incensed with rage? How can you look at it and rationalize what you are seeing? And that's fucking, I know Jamil's not exactly fucking hanging out on my channel, but what the fuck? How do you see this and think you're the good guys? How do you see someone who is fucking permanently harmed and go, oh, we're the victims? Fucking Stonewall and mermaids saying, oh, no, we're looking into it. It's unclear what the Stonewall, it's unclear what the judgment says. We'll get back to you on the implications. No, it's pretty fucking clear. You're the bad guys. Right? It's pretty fucking clear. It wasn't a judgment that was written in bad fucking impenetrable language. It was pretty fucking clear. I'm going to tell you what was clear about the fucking judgment. Right? Which is that when Keira took them to court, presented her case, right? Transgender Trend were asked for evidence. Okay? Mermaids were asked for evidence. All of these lobby groups were asked for evidence. And guess who had it? Right? All these activists that talk about the fucking science or the data or these so-called facts about puberty blockers. They were asked for it. And guess what? There was none. They provided no evidence. In fact, the judges expressed amazement at how they're not gathering stats on this. They literally expressed, they said, why are you not gathering data on this fucking thing? This seems kind of like a big deal. Right? So when you actually hear these people turning around saying the data and the science and the fucking all of this, it's a distraction, clownfish, distraction, right? It's all fucking propaganda. It's smoke and mirrors. It's look over there, look over there, look over there, so that they don't pay attention to Keira and girls like Keira and boys like Keira, right? Who have been radicalized into this fucking cult. Right? Ian, if you are here to correct me, you can fuck off. They're not having... Read the fucking judgment. Get the fuck off my channel, okay? I didn't say kids are having surgery. She's had a mastectomy. Right? As far as I know. Correct me on that. This is happening. They are performing fullness. I know you don't care about girls' boobs or girl parts. You're only about dicks. Right? But there is a fucking large group of young girls who are having their breasts removed as young as 12 in the United States. So shut the fuck up, Ian. Don't actually me unless you've read the judgment. It is there in black and white what they are doing, which is that puberty blockers are it's pretty much confirmed that they will end up on cross-sex hormones. It is not a fucking isolated thing. Puberty blockers put you on that track. Look at Keira. Stop rationalizing. Look at the video. How many Keiras? But I'm sure Ian has motivations that are outside of fucking child protection. Ian's motivations exist around hating TERFs. Why the fuck are you on my channel? Fuck off. Right? In fact, I'm blocking him. Sorry, I don't need this shit from these people. I don't need... If you... Again, Ian, did you watch that video? Right? How do you see what I see and think, okay, so, oh, well, she's 20 then. You're the same kind of guy that thinks that because she's 17 when you fucked her, that's actually still okay. Adolescent brains do not develop properly until they are 25 years old. Okay? Also, adults still join cults. Adults are still in the Church of Scientology. Doesn't make the Church of Scientology okay. You fucking asshole. Right? You fucking asshole. You're the bad guy and you know it, which is why you show up and feel like you need to fucking set the record straight uninvited. Here's some fucking truth. You're the bad guy, Ian. You're the guy who thinks that a 40-year-old man fucking a 17-year-old is fine because technically she can consent. Right? You're the same person. You're that fucking guy. You're the actually perv. Fuck off. How can anyone see that video as a mother? My daughter is her age. Well, actually, my daughter's younger than her. Sorry, my mistake. She's older now. But I'm saying, right, how can you see your daughter's peer groups? Literally, every kid that I know knows a kid who's done this and is on that track. Okay? Now, I'm not judging that. It's not my fucking lane. But what I am saying is there is a cult and there is a trend. And when asked for evidence in court, all of this so-called evidence that does not fucking exist, they didn't have it. The only evidence that came up was from groups that were critical of mermaids and the Tavistock and the identity clinics. And they presented information that was very interesting to the judge and they said, tell us more. Mermaids, on the other hand, did nothing but engage in histrionics, emotional abuse. Turns out tantrums don't work in front of a fucking judge. Turns out you need proof and evidence. And the law applies. Principles apply, such as children can't fucking consent, especially to untested, unknown, and I quote the judgment. Imagine having the confidence of people like fucking Ian, where they think they know better than a panel of judges and experts. Well, actually, I know better than this fucking case that's gone on for months. Fuck off, Ian. Get a grip. Look at yourself. You pathetic individual who just thinks, oh, look, a woman's speaking. Think we'll have something to say about that. What the fuck is wrong with you? You porn sick asshole. There is no actually. You are defending the indefensible right now. And if you are defending the indefensible, what do you get out of it? You fucking prick. Now, ban me. I don't care. How can you see that young girl, that young woman, and rationalize this? Not only rationalize it, but rationalize the abuse. Think people owe J.K. Rowling an apology, huh? Anyway, it's not over. It's not over. They've already said they're going to appeal this. It's not over. The fucking insanity on Twitter, right, is just stupid. Fucking stupid, right? The arguments, and, again, it's a cult. With cults, the true believers, what happens, I think what's going to happen, right? I'm going to predict this, right? Which is that, basically it's a new movement, it's a new religion. Like Scientology exploded in the 70s for a time, became popular, but gradually, right, it just shrunk and shrunk and shrunk and shrunk and became fringe and fringe and fringe. You're always going to have those people that, like the true believers, right? 30%. This is actually something that you could track. It's actually funny. Like when the ruling first came out, I said, I'm here for it, because I can't wait to see what comes out of that 30% of true believers who double down. And boy, did they fucking double down. It's funny. I think people have been distracted with the Elliot Page thing, which is neither here nor there. Cult Vic, okay, whatever, right? Whatever, it's not my business. I don't care, right? I'm going to think what I think, which is that interesting timing. But okay. Fame is a hell of a drug for people, okay? As we can see on Twitter. What people will do for a bit of fucking clout and fame, right? You'd be amazed. People will humiliate themselves. It's not out there to suggest that there's a gap in the market. If you're interested, now that Trump is gone, people are going to be looking for the next grift. Now, speaking of grifts, here's one. All of the mothers with Munchausens who have seen an opportunity in their transgender child, with a court case that now says, there might be a big malpractice suit coming, which is likely. They're going to see a paycheck. I wonder who's going to see people see a paycheck. And because we're not allowed to talk about the reality and the truth of a sick population, okay, not all trans, but the kind of personalities and the climate and the environment, that cultural environment that we've created that incentivizes this kind of thing, we're going to see a whole bunch of fucking mums see a paycheck. Fucking, if you're a pageant mum, these pageant mums, right? They're the same people they exploit their kid for fucking the beauty pageants in the US. They're the same people that will fucking have their kid trans, and they're the same people that will fucking be suing in a year to try and get a few $1,000,000. Right? But we need to be able to talk about it. We need to be able to talk about the reality of Munchausens. We need to be able to talk about the reality, the environment and the system that we have, the incentives and that we've put in place and created for the worst people for this harm to occur. Okay, now, I'm not going to talk about too much about the clinical stuff, right? Because you're here just to fucking whatever, right? To debrief. But first of all, okay, so if you're not familiar with the issue, what the fuck is wrong with you? Read the fucking judgment, watch the video. If you don't know this by now, what the fuck are you doing here? Fuck, okay? It's insane. I can't help you. I'm not going to help you anymore. Look at the judgment. Look at Keira. Look at the harm. Oh, but she's only one. So, she's not only one. For a start, she's the only one that sued, right? She's the only one brave enough to go on fucking international media with that, and show up with her voice the way damaged permanently. Love you, Keira. You are fucking amazing. Thank you. Right? And most of these kids are too young to have changed their mind. Give them time. Give 5 years from now, we're going to be dealing. This is why I'm becoming a psychologist. This is the calling that I have. Yeah, and sorry, Jennifer, I just teared up. Sorry. I think if you're not going to tear up over this stuff, what are you going to tear up over? Fuck you, Ian. Right? Ugh. What the fuck is wrong with you? Technically, she was 17. I reckon Ian's a barely legal guy, right? Fucking prick. And I'm not prone to fucking histrionics or like hyperbole, but fuck. This is a line that we have to fucking just no. And okay, so let's just move on a little bit to the funny, stupid shit, which is that the anime bots are back in force. They got no argument. Read the judgment. Okay, so here we go. Elements of the judgment. Right? Yeah, so Laurie said it's okay, we all sobbed last night. It hasn't hit me till today. I was actually quite just elated, right? I was happy and relieved last night. And also feeling a bit of schadenfreude because, they're the mixed feelings, right? When you're attacked, when you're attacked for trying to do the right thing and prevent harm, and you're up against what we're up against, the psychological abuse, the gaslighting, the threats, hearing of young girls that are on a fast track to a miserable life. Some might be happy with it, but I don't think that they won't be. There's no fucking data, first of all, because they're not even checking. Second of all, the data that does exist shows that medical transition does not improve quality of life because they're not addressing the fucking underlying issues, which is that it sucks to be a girl right now. It sucks to be a teenage girl. It sucked to be a teenage girl in the 80s, but it sucks so much more now. You can't tell me that this wave of fucking girls who are demisexual, demisexual, I get that. I at least understand that stuff, that they need to actually have a fucking flag so that they're not objectified and assumed that they're down to fucking choking. That I get. I get that they need to fucking declare a sexual orientation so that they're left the fuck alone. I get that they want to be boys because they don't like their breasts because of the fucking assholes like Ian who think that technically they're allowed to look because no one's fucking hurt. But she knows that he's looking and she feels that he's looking. Of course they're fucking doing this. Then they're on Instagram being fucking bullied. Fucking Snapchat filters being the new fucking, completely not psychotic fucking dysmorphic, providing fucking thing. You can't tell me that Snapchat filters and the ability and augmented reality is not at least somewhat at a subconscious level imprinting on these kids that they can just simulate what they, themselves with hormones and surgeries. This culture is sick. Internet culture, the thing that I was part of and pushed and encouraged. There's no blood on her hands. But there's blood on ours and blood on mine and blood on every tech company that did this. And every parent who enabled this and every parent who couldn't say no. Sorry. I know this is probably uncomfortable for everyone, but I'm just saying, right? I can't fucking deal. Then these judges, finally, a fucking adult is in charge. Finally. And Stonewall and mermaids act like These fucking, oh my God, there's this QC, John, what's his name? John Fuckwit. He's a QC. Moynan or whatever his name is. Fucking Fox dude. Literally just was saying, barristers out in plain sight saying, oh, well, now that this has happened, people are just going to go over. He made it into a fucking class issue. Here's this for a hot take. Oh, well, now that puberty blockers are effectively illegal, right, in the UK, which is great for young kids, right? And obviously, puberty blockers are now effectively illegal because you can only block puberty on children. So there you go. Fabulous news. They're effectively illegal, right? Unless extreme circumstances you go to court, right? This fucking asshole who somehow is not disbarred, okay, for his misogyny, says that only rich children. So because, here we go, here's this twisted, you know that thing where I said rhetorically, how do you see the things that I see, right? And come out with this fucking Wonka factory thing in your brain. What the fuck? His reasoning was, well, kids will now go overseas for their drugs or black market, go to the dark web. That means only rich parents will be able to do this. That means poor kids miss out on this illegal, unethical treatment. Like, what the fuck, people? Read the judgment. This is a QC who read this judgment and came where it literally says this is experimental treatment on people who cannot consent with a lot of questionable fucking things. And this guy goes, oh, well, the poor kids are going to miss out on that treatment. You want to know how lobotomies happened? This is how fucking lobotomies happen. You want to know how fucking Nazi Germany happened? Yeah, I'm going there. Fuck it. That rationalization, that double down, because smart fucking lawyer can't possibly be wrong. I'm always wrong. I'm happy to be wrong, right? I went down this path thinking that I was fucking, like I've said, I'll go back on an issue, right? Because with complicated issues, especially issues that involve children or parenting or fucking society or culture or law or policy, shit's complicated. Choices are complicated. You need to be okay to be wrong. It needs to be a safe space for us to be wrong. Because when we are wrong, you can't have a situation where this fuck is allowed to double down. He's how is he not fucking disbarred? Imagine, right? I'm sitting here worried that I won't be allowed to be fucking registered as a practicing psychologist when the time comes because of what my views on this. How can a fucking QC publicly say and advocate for something that a high court has ruled deemed illegal and unethical on children, right? And he might be slippery with his fucking words, but I know what he's doing. He's basically giving them advice on how to fucking get around it. You've got this fucking GP grifter who's now just crowdfunding to give the kids the drugs anyway from an international source. This is illegal, not the actual judgment, which is that this is illegal, unethical, and on children who cannot consent. There's a whole bunch of fucking adults right now that are just going, oh, well, we're just going to have to find another way rather than reflect on whether this is right or wrong. What's it going to fucking, like, what the fuck? Underneath, there's a bunch of kids like Keira. There's more of them than you think. Anybody around, like, who's got kids around teenage years in a Western country knows at least one trans boy, if not several. in a group, because when one went again, because of the shit that never happens, that's not real, that's just turf fucking hate speech. When one comes out, the others come out. Because apparently we're abandoning all child development theory, all child development stages, all fucking understanding about social contagion, all medical ethics, all fucking, core principles around like the ability to have bad ideas and good ideas and the relationship of those, all of the psych theory around like cults and cognitive dissonance, and like all of the political theory around what is actually fucking happening here in terms of like corporations and marketing. We're throwing all that out. We're turning a blind eye, right? And this is that normalcy bias stuff that I was talking about yesterday. But this is not normalcy bias at this point. This is willful, like ignorance. It's willful, right? Fuck. It is in that judgment that the kids that are being presenting to gender clinics and fast-tracked to cross-sex hormones, puberty blockers are not a pause button. It is written down in the judgment. It was found. This is not a fucking opinion or a rumor. This is a ruling that when a kid goes into the gender identity clinic at the NHS, not a private clinic, not a quack clinic, the NHS. Okay, it's happening here too, because it's the same model of care, the same process, right? That same affirmative care model is in place everywhere. This is not my opinion. This is a fucking ruling. It has been declared thus far that when a teenager goes into a gender clinic, they are fast-tracked, put on puberty blockers very quickly, okay? It's not a fucking pause button, because the vast majority who go on puberty blockers go on to cross-sex hormones. The judgment says that, okay? It is it's a two-step treatment, and this whole bullshit around how they don't, they focus on the harm of puberty blockers, like being relatively safe, which is not true either. Okay. It is written down in a judgment in a high court. Now, again, in the UK, I got confused too. So in the UK, it's backwards from Australia. So in the UK, they've got the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court above the High Court. Here, we've got Supreme Court and the High Court above that. So I was a little confused, because I was like, they were talking about appeals, but it was High Court. But so it's probably they're going to try and, the slippery fucking pricks are going to try and find some way of appealing it, right? But it is in a judgment right now. As it stands, the law stands. There is a ruling. The ratio decidendi of this fucking case is that the burden on anyone under 16, right? Technically, they can consent, right? Technically, here is a consent. But the things that they would need to know are so complicated and vast and indirect, that children don't have the ability to consent to the degree that is required for this treatment. So that was the ruling, okay? Now, you want to look at the obiter around this shit, okay? It's fucking crazy. Oh, sorry, the other way around, ratios. Sorry, obiter's the fucking, you know what I meant. The reasoning, right? Which is that kids cannot consent. Under 13 cannot consent. And that has now been cemented as a fucking principle of law. Fuck off, pedos, okay? You're done. Under 16s, right? I'm so glad that they actually acknowledged, child development, right? This is, again, water is fucking wet, right? Teenagers are fucking idiots. Every fucking 14-year-old girl who falls in love thinks that that's the fucking boy she's going to marry. You think that they've got the ability to fucking decide? Jesus Christ. Like I was smarter than most kids. Top fucking 2%. And even I was a fucking idiot. Still a fucking idiot. Nobody should consent to this type of thing, right? We talked about gastric surgery yesterday. Do you know what process you need? You need to go through a process with that, right? You need counselling, you need to sign off, you need a psychologist. If a woman wants a tubal ligation under the age of 30, because I went to get a tubal ligation at 29, right, after my third kid, I had to have 3 counselling sessions with my husband about whether I was sure, right, at the age of 29, having had 3 high-risk pregnancies, I had to go through counselling, right, with my husband to make sure that I was sure that I wasn't going to want to have like, a reversal or change my mind because I was under 30, right? It's fucking common sense. It's still bonkers to me that fucking, you know, common sense. Sometimes I do find it funny that this stuff, right? And yes, fucking sociology fucks common sense, whatever. Okay, shut the fuck up, idiot. Right? But actually, you know what? Get off fucking Twitter. You know what I fucking meant. I love it when people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars for like Judge Judy to go get the fuck out of my court. You're taking the piss. Kids can't consent. This is experimental treatment, right? Stop lying. Fuck off. I love that. This is where we'll get to the funny bit. So this is the kind of emotional journey that I went through. So you'll see that a big part of the way that I operate is that the reason why I'm funny and I make jokes, it's a very strong, you'll see it's a coping mechanism for a lot of shit for me, right? So I make jokes about stuff when I rather than get upset, because obviously when you feel this whole thing, you really feel it, right? But I did fucking laugh when they won and people started, and I was sitting there going, you know what? I laughed. Because I was sitting there going, well, this is going to be an interesting fucking double down. It's going to be an interesting thing from Jamila Jamil and Emma Watson and all of those people. People owe J.K. Rowling a fucking bunch of flowers or 3. All right? And then I actually laughed because I was sitting there, you know, it's just like, it's going to be a fucking disaster. But I laughed my ass off. Because also what we know about cults, if you're paying attention to me and my channel, you know that there's going to be some fucking crazy shit going down. And some crazy shit went down. I do love the fucking rationales though. I have been laughing. They're horrific. Like I said in yesterday's video, we have to acknowledge that sometimes the horrific shit, it's like a train wreck and it's funny. Right? And Elliot Page deciding to come out at this very awkward and inopportune time, right? And it's just getting TERFs trending, getting the conversation happening. And that, okay, you want to see my analysis of this, right? Is that it's largely bots. It's AstroTurf. There's a few dumbass blue checks, but they're all dumbasses. They're all complete dumbasses. Every single people are quiet more than anything. Right? The usual suspects are being fuckwits. But that's the thing about cults, is that with cults, that's what I was saying. So with a cult, when the prophecy, it's known, right? This is an established thing. Watch the pattern, right? Is that when there's a new religious movement, and I think this one caught us kind of a little bit, sort of blindsided us through the LGB movement, right? And gender dysphoria, right? With that lack of clarity that I've been talking about. But so this was kind of, it got culty. Okay, so it turned into a cult. But what cults do, right, is that when the prophecy, so if you look at things like when there's a cult with like a prophecy, where if it doesn't come true, so let's say like end of the world cult, let's just say it's a doomsday cult, right? There'll be people who like buy into that initial idea, the initial premise, right? On this day, XYZ event is going to occur, okay? Eventually, like the behavior becomes sort of, you know, they use all of the coercive tactics around, you know, like controlling the information, you know, demonizing, you know, critics, calling critics bigots. That's actually a very common thing. One of the biggest signs that someone is actually in a cult is when they call someone a bigot, because that's actually like again, it's cult language, right? It's really fascinating. So, like Scientologists call non-Scientologists bigots all the time, right? But what happens is, so what you've got sort of before the prophecy, sort of where it's easier to sell the idea. So it's easier to sell. So this philosophy, right, which is like feel good feelings, spirituality. Think about, Scientology, or actually doomsday cult's probably a better example. But these ideas where there's going to be an event and there's a leader and they're controlling the message and it's all love and games and it's all this new great exciting thing. You got the rush of hormones, right? All of the dissonance, right? Smart people, and also smart people are attracted to cults in the early stages quite a lot because it's a new idea. So open-minded people, people who are sort of, this is something I know well, but it's those that are sort of high on openness, right? Are generally sort of vulnerable, open-minded, right? So open-minded their fucking brains fell out, to quote Ms. Burns, right? Or Carl Sagan, depending on who you ask. But at some point, that prophecy needs to sort of materialize. So what happens is, with studies with cults, which is when something happens at a point where like the doomsday, the day comes and goes. The prophecy does not come true, okay? And what happens is that you will see a significant portion of people sort of fall away, right? You'll see a chunk of them sort of start to question, right? It's the sort of that middle group, right? But you'll see about 30% of them will just double down. And that's sunk cost psychology. So that's a sunk cost fallacy, right? And this is something that we're seeing a lot right now, is sunk costs, right? And I've talked about Susie Green with mermaids before. Her sunk costs are her son. I can see that's something that, we talked about the biases yesterday, that horrific shit, when there's a more palatable solution, right? This is the psychology of it. When there's something that makes you look good or be right versus something horrific that you've done and you have to face it, it's easier. You'll be more inclined to double down on the wrongness, on the kind lie, over facing the harsh reality, right? That's what we're seeing happen with the perpetrators of this, like Susie Green, who is the CEO of Mermaids, who transed her own son because he liked girls' toys. It's on record. That's not defamation. That's fucking on record, okay? Her husband's homophobic. So, but imagine that. Put yourself in that situation. So with cults, that's the psychology that happens, is that there's going to be that 30% who sort of, that person who, when people join cults, they sell their house, they move, they leave everyone, they fucking abandon their family, abandon their kids, give away all of their stuff, right? People don't like feeling stupid. So usually what happens with cults is that they get increasingly crazier, but they also use more and more coercive techniques, right? And it closes in on you, but it also starts to create this tight bubble of sort of dissonance where things feel it's safe, where you don't have to face up to the stuff that you've done. You don't have to face up to the stuff that your sunk costs. You don't have to face up to, it's like the ultimate fucking, regret, right? Of purchase. What's that word? I can't think of it right now. Buyer's remorse. It fucking, think about that. It's like big buyer's remorse. Sunk cost fallacy is another, is a form, buyer's remorse is a form of sunk cost fallacy. It's just a smaller version. Or, a relationship. So the psychology, actually in a violent relationship, for example, there's a big part of sunk cost fallacy that goes into it, which is that she's spent 10 years of her life, she's given to this thing, she doesn't know anything, there's all these things, right? There's a part, it's not the whole thing, I'm just saying that's part of it, right? It's part of the reason why people, sort of stay in careers that they're unhappy with, because they've, especially like people who study professions, or, for me with digital, it's like, oh fuck, sunk costs here. I spent 20 years of my life only to realize that I hate it, so that kind of thing, right? I don't hate it. It's just changed to the point where I don't feel that I can be in it ethically. If it changes, then things change rather than just be used as a giant weapon, then I'll reevaluate. But I don't know. Anyway, but so that's what happens with cults. So last night with this, so this is stuff that I know, okay, like how cults behave. So what they're doing, and also one thing that happens is that the true believers sort of, they get crazier and crazier and crazier. But as time goes on, sort of the crazier it gets, the sort of lose more and more people on the outside, those doubts. So this happens every time. So every time there's some sort of key event that sort of triggers everyone's dissonance, whether the prophecy doesn't come true, or in this case, it's like a high court ruling that says this is fucking wrong, right? Only the craziest people who think that all of the court, all of the experts, all of the government, right? All of the fucking mothers, Keira, we're all in a big conspiracy to fucking like stop kids being trans, right? So that's why you're starting to see a lot of that online conversation really shift to that extreme hyperbolic stuff, because they actually do believe it, because they truly, and this is where Trump has been incredibly unhelpful, and Boris Johnson and these things, they have been incredibly unhelpful with this cult, because what it has done is given them a narrative, whether true or false, right, that the right is rising and wants to kill them all, right? But it's the cult that's telling them that, right? This is that milieu control. This is exactly how cults operate. It's why I diagnosed it as a cult, because I just went, it's a fucking cult. Holy shit, it's exactly like a cult, right? And so they tightly control. But that's why you're also seeing, right, Ian now talking about consent at 20 and facts. That's why you're now seeing you're seeing a lot of astroturfing going on. They've obviously kicked the fucking bot money back into gear. That's obvious, right? But it's just funny because they turn on the turf bot button, and it's just like, and then you just get turf gifts, and you go, okay, then cool. Report. Actually, you want some advice? Don't report them for harassment. Report them as fake, because I can guarantee you that the signals will show that they're a fake account, and they'll be like banned for spam as a bot, even if they're not. All the signals look like it, so Twitter are likely to assess it as a fake account. So anyway, but harassment's harder because that's more subjective. This is an objective thing based on objective signals. So report them as fake if you can, unless it's like clear stuff. But anyway, what was I going to say? But you're also seeing the party line be pushed out, right? So they're pushing out the same words, and I love how they sit there talking about like talking points, and it's just like the only people doing talking points a fucking trans lobby, because they're just repeating the same shit. It's so funny. Like, it's weird. Oh no, the judgment's unclear. The implications are unclear. They're taking away the drugs, right? Not that you shouldn't have had them in the first place because it was negligent, right? That's not what they're saying. They're saying, oh no, they're taking something away that they shouldn't have had in the first place, right? Let's not forget that this case is actually 15 years old, really. These objections were first raised 15 fucking years ago by a former worker, right? But, so, this is a long time coming, right? And then they're like, oh, they're not transing children, technically. They're just put on puberty blockers. They're not transing children. See, they do the splitting. This is that information control, right? And then what they do is they will derail with clownfish and take you down this fucking rabbit hole of pointless argument. Can I just say, there's no, intersex is not relevant to this, because first of all, intersex is not trans. Second of all, I don't think Jessica Yaniv is a chimera or chimera. I don't think he is. Okay? I don't think Karen White has XXY chromosomes. Don't at me. Not an argument. Fuck off. So, and I don't think that all of these girls have chromosome tests. And also, it's probably come out that they didn't even do those tests anyway. They haven't done them. That's what came out of the judgment too. which is that not only do they fast track kids onto puberty blockers, which is a surefire, which, you know, the vast majority do proceed onto cross-sex hormones, and the judges actually fucking, they basically went out of their way to say that that's one and the same. Let's just assume that when you go on puberty blockers, you're transitioning. So that's splitting, right? Where they go, well, we're not transing children. Well, you are. You're putting children on the first step to transition, right? When they do that, it's actually come out that there's no alternative pathway for treatment. That's the only treatment. There's no psychological treatment. There's no alternative. There's no CBT or DBT or anything else. Okay. So they're pushing one line of treatment for a broad range of complex things, including, that was what I was going to get to, autism. It is mentioned in the judgment that a large portion of children, a significant enough, statistically significant enough number of girls that are presenting to gender clinics, and boys, are autistic. You know? It's fucking awful. Or autistic or gay. Right? You need to see this for what it is, people. I know everyone who's watching agrees with me, but I'm just saying. This is just horrific. And the fact that there is actually a court now, we can point to the judgment where they say everything that everyone's been saying about this issue. Fuck clownfish, you fucking idiots. And if you're a biologist and think that you can argue this, you're not a very good biologist. And let's not forget, okay, that there are people who have a certain job title that aren't good at their jobs and they're not smart. Okay? I think that we need to start it's okay. You can have a job and be dumb as a fucking box. All right? You can be a doctor and incredibly stupid. You can be a philosopher and incredibly fucking stupid. You can also be incredibly evil. I don't believe most people are evil, but you can do a lot of evil. Right? Can we get away from the idea that everyone who has a certain job title or a degree is like the smartest person in that area or the best person to look at it? I think we should assess whether their fucking ideas are actually intelligent or not, or whether they have data. Now let's point out in the judgment, the judges pointed out and were legit surprised by the fact that there's no data in these clinics. They're not keeping any data. They're not assessing it. The judges think maybe it might be actually fucking important. This is important to know that a bunch of kids with autism are presenting at gender clinics. This seems like news we should probably fucking follow up on. Nah. That's written down in a judgment. Written down. Okay? Don't let these fucks gaslight us anymore. Okay? Now, I don't know. Is this hate speech? Probably. Fuck them. I don't give a fuck if you think that what I think is morally correct is hate speech. I don't care because it's right. And you are wrong. And I also can tell the difference. Do you know the difference between good and evil? It's not the thoughts you have. It's how you conduct yourself. You are doing experimental treatments on children who have been ruled that they cannot consent to this, with no alternative pathways, no questions asked. You are demonizing and attacking anybody who suggests that this is not okay. You are doxing, brigading, attacking, harassing, defaming, punching getting them fired, harassing women on a daily basis with threats. Then gaslighting them to tell them that, you know, and then when the court rules and calls you out on that shit, you double down. Okay? Let's look at the actual evidence, shall we? Not just your opinion on whether you think you're the good guys, right? I tweeted actually, I was like, how's it going on the right side of history? So long as you ignore all of history and high court rulings. You're the bad guys, Stonewall. You're the bad guys, mermaids. Wokes, you're the bad guys. I don't give a fuck if it's hate speech. Okay? It's one of those things. I'm sure the Nazis fucking, you know, deemed anyone who objected to their shit hate speech, fucking hang me. Don't care. You're wrong. It's bad. Stay mad. I don't care. Get me banned. I don't care. You can't fucking do anything. Because I also know that I'm right. And I also know how these things work, which is that your fucking cult is shrinking. And it's getting increasingly more crazy. And more and more people, because I also know this, because I know how history works. I read books. I know things. I know science. I know people. I know psychology. I know politics. All roads lead to you failing. All roads lead to you being fucking wrong. Jamila Jamil, eat shit. You're wrong. Okay? Just admit you were wrong, apologise, and we'll talk about it. But you're fucking idiot. Okay? You were wrong. All right? Cults have victims. You'll come into loving arms. Okay? So anybody who wants to suddenly just realise, in light of this case where they realise they've been wrong, right? Can we just agree not to gloat too much? We'll laugh. I'm going to laugh because it's fucking funny. Especially those people who have like not invited me onto things, or not like, who have just fucking like unfriended me or blocked me or called me a fucking transphobe or called me all these things, right? Or won't work with me or won't do anything or won't work with anyone else, or fired these women, gotten rid of Megan Murphy, gotten rid of fucking anyone who fucking asks questions. All of them being vindicated, that's okay. We can have a fucking laugh and be vindicated. But if you're feeling like things are wrong and you were wrong and you've made a terrible mistake right now, which I fucking hope you are, we forgive you. It's a cult, and cults have victims. And I understand that it's hard and difficult to come out of them. But part of being in those things means that you do need to face what you've done, okay, and make it right. Make it right. I don't know how anybody who is not a complete fucking psychopath like Ian or fucking, you know, Harrop, or fucking, you know, all these fucking bitchy, misogynist little fucks who are basically just fucking Perez Hilton, right? How they can see Keira in front of them. Again, I know how they can do that, because that's our brains and how they work, right? If they are willfully ignoring this, it means they know that it's horrific. Because if it wasn't horrific, they'd be able to face it. That's how our psychology works. We can only face things when they're palatable to us, unless we're really working hard to see it. Which means that if they're willfully ignoring it, even if consciously they don't know that it's horrific, subconsciously they know they're wrong. Okay? But fuck, I'm not apologizing for this view. It's backed by by the High Court in the UK. Thankfully, in Australia, the UK is highly influential, and this should be downstream. Hopefully, by the time I go to be registered as a psychologist, I'll be seen to have been someone who was on the right side, and it won't be an issue. Okay, and that questions will start to be asked about affirmative care, right? And that model, right? And it won't be such a silencing for people who are in clinical, right? The one takeaway from this that's great. Let's spare a thought for the sort of the psychologists, the counsellors, and the psychiatrists, and all those people who are on the ground at the moment, right? Who are forced to shut up and do like this affirmative care model, right? And not ask any questions. Now they actually have fucking a piece of paper and and some studies and some authoritative work where they can actually just be fucking clinicians again and address the mental health of these kids. Okay? Now, I don't care. I'm not getting into whether it's real or not. It's not my thing. Okay? I'm saying that it's largely, 1 out of 10 might turn out to be actually trans. Statistically, it's unlikely. It's more likely to be other things, right? It's more likely. Again, this is just fucking thinking. I can't believe that you need a court for common sense. Water's fucking wet. Children can't consent. Oh my God. Groundbreaking case. Then there's people, fucking flat earthers. Oh no, children can consent. How dare you say that? No! If you know anything, I've been diving into my child development because I'm trying to decide whether I'm fully going into ClinPsych or not. So I'm sort of just diving into some theory again and revisiting my child development stuff. And it's like, no! There is no evidence. None. Zero. Stamped by a court. It's over. Children cannot consent to this. They are not capable of it. Also, children are vulnerable to fucking unwell mothers. Okay? We can't create environments that put incentives in place for child abuse. Fuck. How can anybody just not just be going, what the fuck, over and over again with these people? Again, I think it's largely an AstroTurf movement and blue checks that have been that are either sunk so far gone and so far in that they have no choice to back down or, to keep going, right? Or they're fucking in the pocket or they've got a book deal or fucking, their income is dependent on it. I cannot see how any intelligent, remotely functioning with a body temperature above fucking 35 degrees person with eyes and ears can fucking see this stuff and go, oh, that's fine, normal. Like I was saying yesterday, oh, that's just perfectly usual. Nothing to see. The Emperor's got no fucking clothes on. He's naked. I was always that kid. That point. That lady's fat. Anyway, even a kid can point out and go, "That's a man." Yeah, because it's fucking unusual. This is not normal. All of history, all of fucking ideology, except for one batshit religion. All of science. Okay, on Twitter, some fucking kid or fucking dickhead, right? It was probably a bot. It was like, well, what science do you have to prove the fucking... I was like, mate, all of it! Up until 3 weeks, like all of it up until now. If you exclude chimerism and other fucking exceptions or things that are basically just like philosophy papers... Judith Butler is a literature professor. Okay? And also there are biologists that are just bad at their jobs and have a political ideology. Let's look at the big tobacco fucking disinformation strategy, shall we? What's more likely? That everything we know to be true from science, philosophy, evolutionary biology, psychology, politics, capitalism, Marxism, through every other fucking lens other than critical theory. Okay. You know that thing where there's a dude and he goes, all of my exes are crazy. And you go, dude, I think you might be the problem, okay? If every other philosophical framework, every scientific approach, everything that we know, maths, science, philosophy, fucking psychology, gravity, fucking everything we know to be true says this is a cult. You're the problem. You're the ones that, it's just a pure fucking, it's just data. Okay. It's not on us to prove anything anymore. The court has ruled. Okay. If you, any other lens, every other philosophy that is grounded in material reality, every other fucking discipline, science, law, justice, fucking, let's think of it. Linguistics, if you have any understanding of any of these disciplines, you know what's going on. It's a cult. Where's your science? I don't know. Where's yours? I would have thought that court would have been a good time to present some of that shit. Turns out there wasn't any. Turns out it's bunk. Turns out you're transing autistic kids and gay kids. You're the bad guys. You're the bad guys. I hope that rant was funny. It started heavy, but it needed to, right? Because I needed to I couldn't go in this rant here without showing the serious context and showing that I actually do care, right? And the gravity of the situation. But I'm going to read. So here's some stuff that you can do, right? Okay, this is what I think we do. We need urgently to focus on gender identity, sex distinction in law, the act. That needs to be addressed. There needs to be clarity. It needs to be clear, okay? We need to work on trying to get legislation off the back of this ruling that children cannot consent and affirming that, right? I imagine politicians will just fucking, this is what cowardly politicians do with hot button issues is they just bump it to the court, right? That's just because they're pricks and they're the fucking politicians are dickheads, right? And selfish, self-serving, right? They're not going to do anything that will deliberately rock the boat. So they'll just bump it to the courts. But what we need to do is find test cases everywhere and get it up the courts because now there's precedent and now that precedent is fucking influential. The UK, one of the I think it's like the third highest court in fucking all of the Commonwealth, right? It's highly persuasive in Canada and in the UK and Commonwealth nations. And it's also somewhat influential in the United States, but American exceptionalism, they don't take fucking advice from anyone. They just make up their own shit. And that's I think America has a different struggle because they're just so corporatist and so fucking blind to this shit that it's a different, I think they need to be separated as issues. American tech companies are a problem. We need to address that, but we can come at them from other countries. So Australian, UK, Canada feminists now have a legal ruling to back it up that we're allowed to talk about this. That's another thing. We're allowed to talk about it. Okay, I would say that's a ruling. There's knock-on effects here because it's been rubber stamped by a court. It has official. It's not just bigotry. It has been rubber stamped as an official view to have. Okay, good luck. And we can sue those American tech companies on that basis, right? I'm not saying the details of how that would occur. I'm just saying there's knock-on impacts for this, right? Because when you have a case, it's written down, it's a judgment, it becomes authoritative. It's not just some dumb fuck's opinion, okay? Judith Butler is a literature professor. What the fuck? Since when were we taking advice from that? Have you met a lit grad? They're idiots. They're idiots. Isn't that like one of the lowest degrees to get into, like entry score wise? Can't you just fucking, isn't that something you can do at like open learning? Like, what the fuck? Why are we ending, why is the world ending over a literature fucking grad? Right? I think it's not over, but it's a substantial fucking step forward. Because this is what I was saying. I think I've been saying this a few times. When it comes to policy, I think that, organizations are largely over a barrel while the Sex Discrimination Act and those things are in place, and that conflict can't comply. It's very difficult to comply with the act and not, I think that going after the organization is not necessarily the best way to go. What you can do is engage them and say, like, I understand that you're trying to comply with the law. Can you help work with us to try and get clarity and force change to the Sex Discrimination Act to make sure that gender identity is clearly defined and sex is clearly defined, and the interactions between those two when they're in conflict with each other, some clarity and process around that, okay? That should be something we could work together with those organisations to try and move towards. I don't think that brigading or dogpiling them or being outraged over them just merely complying with the law, like with the Lalesh League or those sorts of places. Amnesty is different because Amnesty denies that, they make a statement denying biology. That's different because they're actually advocating for the deplatforming of women, that's a different thing. But with something like Lalesh League or the Banksia Hills transgender prisoner stuff, those sorts of policies, I think we need to let up on those and see them as actually pretty decent, right? And they're compliant with the Act. But what the real focus needs to be is on clarification in that conflict between sex, gender identity, separating gender identity, gender dysphoria from gender identity, okay? One is one that you have no real mental health problems, right? Again, it's like that acute versus chronic. There needs to be some sort of divide there. We also need to clearly define what genders, right? Because 300, are all 300 ridiculous genders valid? Are all made up ones valid? There needs to be some sort of like line in the sand and clear definitions around that, which is that these are the gender identities that are recognised in law, and the rest, fill your boots, right? That's private. That's a you problem, right? We're not compelled. That's where the line and divide has to be, right? And that's not pushing for medicalisation at all. It's actually quite the opposite. It's pushing for reasonable fucking divides. But children can't fucking have operations unless they're like life-saving. And that's the loophole. I think that's the loophole they're going with, is that it's a life-saving operation. I can't wait till the next time when they say that it's a life-saving operation and there's no fucking suicides. The data's not there. There is no data. There are no stats other than kids screeching that they're going to kill themselves if we don't give them what they want. An adult came in and said, no, you can't do that. You're a child. Thank fuck! Because we're adults and that's the role of adults. Thank fuck! Funnily enough, screaming that you're going to kill yourself is grounds for fucking hospitalisation, not fucking affirmation. That's borderline personality disorder and histrionics and emotional manipulation. That means you're not healthy enough to consent. Other mechanisms kick in, which mean if you're in a state of distress where you feel like not getting we've got a kid who fucking walked out of the house and accused us of abuse for asking her to empty the dishwasher at 3:00 in the afternoon because she was in bed. Okay? You don't listen to fucking 15-year-olds. They're fucking idiots. And they're manipulators. And if you give them the fucking, enough shit, give them enough opportunity to take advantage or take the piss to get what they want, they will take it. Okay? I know this. I've gone through this. I know my child development. I've had teenagers, definitely had teenage girls that are off their fucking head right now. Okay? Who have been basically enabled by everyone around them. Because apparently we let children emotionally blackmail us now. and a cultural level on Twitter. Apparently, respect your elders isn't a thing. Apparently, these principles that we grew up with, apparently, understanding that people who've lived longer than you might know a thing or two more than you. That's not a thing. I mean, that's never been a thing for fucking teenagers. But, it's just fucking hilarious. I'm so glad that our collective heads are back together. Now, with cults, we're all going to see the crazy. I'm there for the crazy. The crazy's funny. Because the thing is, as more and more evidence surfaces, like the fact, can we just acknowledge that the BBC actually fucking aired this? And that I haven't seen. Can I just point out? Okay, here's some of the funny mental gymnastics. Right, the judgment said, 1, these are the criteria. These are the circumstances in which a 13-year-old, 16-year-old. So they separated under 13s, right? They said can't consent. Fair enough. 13 to 16. They said these are the circumstances in which one would need to, it would need to satisfy the child's ability to consent, because they're basically using the access to the pill, abortion, also all those sorts of things that a teenager in that situation can can consent in that situation, because they know that they want again, just for their own whatever. So, but they said, here are the criteria, right? They listed the criteria in which, so all the things that a 13 to 16-year-old would need to know in order to consent. So they actually, so in the judgment, it's just fucking how funny, how dumb the fucking woke blue check, the funk piece media is, right? Which is that they read that and they went, children 13 to 16 can consent to puberty blockers in these circumstances. Okay, 16 to 17-year-olds can consent in these, under 18, 16 to 18, can consent in these circumstances. Then they said, according to, basically, that that it would be so incredibly unusual or unreachable or impossible, developmentally speaking, for a 13 to 16-year-old or a 16 to 18-year-old to know what they're doing, right? That they can't consent. HuffPost and a couple of others posted, this is how they spun it. High Court rules that teenagers can consent to puberty blockers. Like, that's not what it said. Ben Shapiro oh my God, Ben Shapiro, fucking outrage. The culture wars are in fucking force. Ben Shapiro tweeted, oh no, they've said that the UK is going into communism. Says children can consent. It's like, no, it's not what it said. They were saying, here are the situation. Here's the fucking dummies, man. All these dumbass people who can't read a basic fucking. If you can't understand a basic legal judgment, stay the fuck out of politics. It's easy. You need to be able to identify. Okay, if you can't do basic statutory interpretation, right, which is to identify the decision from the reasons for the decision and understand the precedents and all of those things and how law interacts with each other, don't comment. Don't comment. Because Ben Shapiro, who's got, he's a dickhead, but he's got a large audience, a whole bunch of people didn't read it. Didn't read the headline. They only read the headline, and it was misrepresented. They said, here are the circumstances in which a child can consent to puberty blockers. That is so high that it is unlikely to happen. Therefore, they can't. That was the fucking reasoning. Fucking morons. Jesus. Why are people listening to Twitter? And why do dummies make so much more money than me? I suppose because it's easy to peddle simplistic tribal answers than it is to sit and fucking, actually digest things. Maybe that's the thing. Being right is not right, and is not. Let's just say, being popular is generally not on the side of being right. When you're right and you're telling the truth, you're often hated and not liked and not popular, right? In order to be right, you need to not want to be famous or rich. You just need to value being right. So thankfully, I like it. Thankfully, I don't give a fuck about fame or anything like that. But at the same, it's just like, Jesus Christ, guys. Okay. So anyway, I've gone too long, I think. Sorry, my lighting got a bit shit, but I just wanted to get on. Yeah. Stay mad, TERFs. I love you. We're winning. Okay. Just hang in there. Stand your ground. And also, stay focused on the right fucking issues. All right? I said last night, I was like, all right. So they sort of started with the receipts last night. That was funny, right? They got all the receipts, right? All the screenshots of all the people that fucking said shit and that, you know. And it's fun to gloat, and it was fun. But also, like, you know, turn off the swarm from time to time. It's mostly AstroTurf. They're all anime. They're scripted bots when you actually pay attention, right? So just fucking let the truth prevail and focus your energy on FOI requests. You know, do some sort of citizen journalism, real citizen journalism. Twitter is Twitter. But if anything, this just proves that Twitter is fucking, you know, like Pink News can just write that children can have puberty blockers and a whole bunch of Twitter people are going to believe it. But it's not what the law says. Stay mad, Twitter. It's not. And if Twitter start fucking banning us for saying that, well, we go, no, we're actually just speaking a judgment here right now. It's not hate speech. It's the truth. It's the truth. Rubber stamped, certified by the High Court of the UK. There's something fishy's going on. We'd like to explore this further. We would like to build on this ruling and let the real shit start coming out. Like the money and the front groups and the advertising strategies and campaigns, right? Start documenting the kinds of content that people are making and seeing. Go into Tumblr groups, stealth into Facebook groups, right? Receipts. Sue, FOI, process. Get the act changed. Don't fucking get outraged on Twitter because a non-profit organization is trying to be compliant with a fucking act. Okay? You're not going to do, they're trying to not be sued as well. That's the problem, is that it's actually more risk thing and policy and governance than it is like wokeism. Like, yes, some have been captured, yes. But a lot of it, I think, people haven't lost their minds as much as you'd think. I don't know how anyone can see any of this and not be on our side. We've said this before. We're not wrong. They're just loud and they're fucking abusive. And even, I just love that. The judge is like, yeah, it's almost like abuse and emotional manipulation doesn't work in court. I joked, actually. I was like, but I tried to pay my power bill with a drawing that I did, and they said that I still needed money. Fucking bigots. That's what this is. It's just like they're fucking children. And sometimes you need to tell children to fuck off for their own good. Not tell them to go overseas or to the dark web for shit that's been deemed unethical and dangerous. Where's your fucking head? Anyway, I love you. If you want to support me, go to my website. I don't know why. It's not a grift. I feel bad when we're talking about these sorts of things. I'm just saying some people do feel motivated to support or super chat or, you know, all of those sorts of things, right? I'm just saying it's there if you want to. But it always feels a bit, you know, not like these fuckwits that are like, oh, TERF, Venmo me. It's like, yeah, nah. It's like, okay. But if you would like to support me, then that's nice. I love you. It's not you. You're doing great. Stay mad, fuckers. We're winning. I love you. Bye.